The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest stories in the NBA.
Rob Pelinka and JJ Redick meet the media on Thursday, and Pelinka opens with a surprise.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast.
You might say, at the news from Thursday afternoon in the press conference with Rob Pelinka and JJ Redick Thursday afternoon in El Segundo. Some big news coming out of that, which we'll tell you about next. But first, I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. I'm not even going to do the math to tell you what the return is on that. It's too big. I can't do it. All right, so Media Day is Monday, and as has become the tradition, Rob Pelinka and the coach, in this case, JJ Redick, meet the media ahead of Media Day, and they opened with some news. Pelinka giving his sort of State of the Union, Andy, and then dropped a bomb. JJ Redick, already a year in, gets an extension.
That was news to seemingly everybody in that room. You could feel the energy, like a reaction of, wait, what? Because Rob said this very casually. He was going through DeAndre, like the offseason in its entirety, because he was presenting why he thought it was a very positive offseason, bringing in DeAndre Ayton, Marcus Smart, Jake LaRavia, obviously getting Luka Doncic signed to an extension, which was priority number one. He mentioned LeBron James opting into his deal and, having LeBron for at minimum one more season. But then he also said, and JJ Redick, his extension. And I'll put it this way.
What?
Well, I'll put it this way. There were 2 people sitting behind me in this room that, without revealing who they were, I would just say that they are in the position where if this had even been semi known amongst people in the media,
Joey Buss and Jay Moore.
It was not them. It was not them. Although I did actually talk a little bit with Joey Buss afterwards. Talked with him about the new venture that he and his brother, there was an announcement, just started up. Him and Jesse gave him a congratulations and just caught up a bit. But the 2 people behind me, I'll just say, I would figure for a variety of reasons would have been in the loop for this. Neither one of them had a clue and actually asked me if I knew, to which I said, not even an inkling that this was going to be the case. Like, when you combine the fact that JJ Redick was only 1 season, not just into his contract with the Lakers, a 4-year deal, but 1 season into his coaching career. And the fact that, let's just say, coaching has not been a particularly stable position with the Lakers. And the last time we saw a coach get an extension, it was Frank Vogel getting what you and I referred to as a fake extension. It was a 1-year deal that they ended up firing him on. They ended up eating the money on it anyway.
Well, you mentioned Frank. Like, every time like a news like this happens, I always picture Frank shooting on his TV Elvis style. Because it's like,
man.
dude, I want a title.
Are you kidding? Frank's doing great, man. He keeps getting paid millions of dollars to literally go anywhere other than the building and the company paying him that money.
No, I'd kill to be
Frank Vogel.
No,
he gets to keep the championship.
It's the American dream. They
didn't ask him to return it.
It's just, I always picture it's not totally apples to apples. I understand. But the dude's like, I want a title, and you guys wouldn't give me a real extension.
I would much prefer to be Frank Vogel. I get to keep the championship ring, and I get to keep all the money, and I don't even have to do a damn thing. Although now he's actually Jason Kidd's.
He's working again, yeah.
He's one of Jason Kidd's assistants, flipping the dynamic from 2020 when Kidd was his lead assistant. Were I Frank Vogel, I'd be sitting on my ass doing nothing.
That is why we're smarter than NBA head coaches.
Horror.
but smarter. And so it's interesting. I think the news surprised obviously a lot of people, as you noted, but like not just in I didn't know that was a thing way, like, I didn't know they did that, but like he's only been there for a year. And it's not like he's only been there for a year and had a 2-year contract. Like he's going into a lame duck year. It was a 4-year deal. The Lakers had 3 more years to sit on this. Nobody was going to talk about an extension. Certainly not this year.
No.
Maybe extension talk for Redick. If they won another, let's say they won 50 games again this year and had a reasonable playoff run, whether that means going farther than last year or losing to a very good team in a very competitive series, extension talk might start next off season, but nobody was going to talk about it this year.
And JJ actually acknowledged that in being asked about this. He said, quote, Rob and I, we have a lot of the same philosophies on life. And one of the words that we always talk about is gratitude. And so I think it just starts with a high level of gratitude to the Lakers, to Mark Walter, Jeannie Buss, Rob Pelinka, for having that confidence in me. And it's not lost on me, the sort of rarity of a first-time head coach getting an extension. Like I recognize how fortunate I am to be with an organization that supports me in that way. Rob was asked essentially, like, where did the urgency come from? Because even if they believed in JJ, and clearly they did, but there were no signs before that they didn't.
Correct.
There was no need for expediency in terms of just context. And Rob said, quote, confidence and belief. We think he's a special coach with a special voice that's really helping us to continue to define the culture of Lakers excellence, and which we just wanted to make a clear statement that this is what we believe in, what we're going to lean into, and what our players are going to mold into as we continue to develop the identity. I think having long-term planning is helpful as we build this team and go forward. 2 things in there jump out at me. A, just the idea that they are actually prioritizing this at all, because it has not been with the Lakers, I would say, since Phil Jackson. Like the idea that we want to establish this sort of longevity and culture specifically through a coach and actually meaning it. But also I think it goes unsaid. Luka clearly likes JJ Redick, because they don't do this unless Luka, who also just got an extension, at minimum seems to enjoy being coached by JJ, because as much as they clearly believe in JJ, if already there were signs that you got to choose between one of the two, it's been nice knowing you, JJ.
Oh yeah, no question. And
clearly Luka likes him.
I think that's true. I think a couple of things jump out at me. First, it was one of the only answers Rob gave on Thursday that did not include the word optionality. Second, I think this is one of those deals where you look at it and the continuity that they're trying to build. And it's another, both a buzzword, but also what has become, I think, clearly a priority for the organization is trying to create some sense of continuity. Now, they struggle to do that with the roster, I think, in certain ways, because both by choice and by circumstance, they've had to do a lot of short-term deals. Even their big moves this offseason, DeAndre Ayton, Marcus Smart, those guys, if they play to the level the Lakers hope that they will, could be difficult to bring back next year. I think everybody understands that. So it can be hard to build continuity. Obviously, the Lakers trying to keep at least some degree of flexibility as well. But signing Luka gives the prospective free agent, the prospective trade partner, the prospective whoever it might be, it provides another layer that provides those players a layer of certainty that Luka Doncic will be on this team for X number of years.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
The new Celtics owner talks about final decisions, a new building, and paying the tax. I'll play the whole thing. I've been talking about this on this podcast for a while. I need to know, with all of these investors, with all of these people here, what's this power structure going to look like? What is going to happen when final calls need to be made? So I asked him that question. I'd like to start by just clarifying the power structure of the ownership group. There's a managing board of yourself and 7 others, correct?
Correct.
What is the voting power of that group? Do you hold final say, or is there a possibility of a majority of the group voting one way and you voting a different way on basketball matters?
First, I just say that my approach to leadership and the way that I've approached that all my life is through consensus. We've got a great team, and both, and you asked about basketball, but I'd also speak the same way about the business operations team as well. So Brad and Rich are great leaders. In the end of the day, there is, I am accountable, and there's a governor, and the governor has the final say, and that's me.
So just for clarification, if Brad Stevens comes to you with a matter that requires ownership approval, whatever it is, what you say is what goes, or if 7 others on your board vote differently, it's your opinion that matters on that?
I think the way to think about it is that when we're kind of working through things, we're doing that as a group, and really Wick and myself are that final gate, but ultimately I'm the one that's accountable. And to be very clear, that is the final say.
So there it is. It couldn't be any more clear about it. And I do appreciate the direct, like, there's no dancing around it. There's no kind of like, well, there might be an instance, or there's this dynamic or whatever. It's his say is the final say. He's not obligated to tell me what his percentage of ownership is, but whatever it is, it's enough. And, the structure is such that what he says goes. And that's important to me, because I think fans of any particular team want to know, like, who's the person in charge. We can't have Bill Chisholm coming out every season, 2-3 times, however many times an owner will talk during the season, and saying one thing, and then having the board of 7 other people, himself, it would make it 8, have those people be like, well, no, we actually don't agree with you. And I know you get these investors in for everybody kind of joins in, and everybody's having a great time. And, initially the whole group is probably going to be, marching together, as Wick likes to say, shoulder to shoulder. And that would be great. But, most people don't get married thinking that they're going to be divorced, and things change over the course of a relationship. Things change over the course of an ownership group's kind of relationship. You've got 8 voices on a board. Right now, everything is great. You've got the high of, you just bought a team, you are an NBA owner, and it's great. The Celtics are about to make some tough decisions over the next 2-3 seasons. There may be jobs on the line, and there's a lot of money to be spent, and there are contracts to hand out, and there are potential trades. When do they eventually bottom out? How does that look? Do they ever bottom out? Do they try a different tact? Like, who knows how they approach it? Brad Stevens is going to have to go to ownership and ask for approval of a hiring, a firing, a contract, a trade, a sign, whatever. Knowing that whatever he decides, you can go to Bill Chisholm and say, okay, you approved that. Why did you say yes? Or why did you say no? Why did you give him this? Why didn't you give him this? You need to have that one person who is accountable. So whenever a question comes up, we all know who to look to, and who, I know who to ask, and I know who to kind of hold accountable. He said it. I'm accountable. I'm the one. I'm the guy. So that's, I think, an important first step. What do people want from their owners? They want an owner who's accountable. They want an owner who's going to stay basically out of the way and who's going to spend money. You can be basically what Wick Grossbeck has been. And that is being on the sidelines, cheer, root for the home team. You spend money when you need to spend money, and you otherwise get out of the way. And when something needs to be answered, you are there. You are the face that is in front of the camera, and you are the one answering the questions. Difficult or not, you are the one answering the questions. So it was a big thing that I've been harping on. And just to throw in another element, I did ask him about the second round of financing and all of that stuff. For clarification's sake, the way we're going to look at this now is the deal is done, as according to Chisholm, the deal is done. It's just a matter of how it's being funded. It's not about, I need to go out and search for new investors. So one of the things I had brought up in the past was, when you get to the second round of, the second phase of the closing, it's not the managing board goes from 8 to 11, let's say. The managing board is the managing board. People are there. There may be some investors that come on board throughout the course of it. Maybe, there's always the possibility of people buying in or selling their share and getting out. That happens. It's fluid. It happens all the time. Not all the time, but it's not uncommon. But the second phase of this closing isn't going to be another round of fundraising and bringing in, here's another 15% for you and 15% for you. Chisholm says, my share is going to remain unchanged. This is, the structure is the structure. You just got to, I think they just have to figure out how to finance that structure. It's a $7 billion team approximately. So yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So that's the structure. Now the question is spending.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with this can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits. However, I like to bet in the moment. Player props, same-game parlays, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast.
Got some A-block material. Michael Scotto tweeted out earlier, about 4 hours ago, the Charlotte Hornets are waiving Nick Smith Jr., league sources told Hoops Hype. He averaged 9.9 points, 2.4 assists, in 22.8 minutes while starting 27 of 60 games played for Charlotte last season. He shot 37% from three-point range so far during his NBA career. So, a couple things to take care of. Just real quickly, who was Nick Smith Jr. as a Charlotte Hornet? Well, again, he did play in 60 games last year. He appeared in 111 games overall over each of the last two seasons. He did play almost 23 minutes per game last season, started those 27, as Michael Scotto mentioned. Only shot 39% from the field. He shot 43% from three his rookie year. Remember, he was towards the top at one point, leading all rookies in NBA in three-point shooting. That might have actually been the case at the end of his rookie season. That shooting percentage went down significantly from 43 to 34, and he averaged, again, the 9.9 points per game. So actually, I don't want to say decent numbers, not efficiency-wise, but did get a decent amount of run. But in the end, when you sign all of the guards, Doug, when you acquire Colin Sexton, when you bring back Trey Mann, you even sign Spencer Dinwiddie, you draft Con Knipple, you draft Liam McNeely, who's more of a wing, but still, you draft Sion James. you got all of the guards. And unfortunately, it always felt like this was going to happen. It felt like the easiest cut to make after DeQuan Jeffries was let go. So he's the first domino to fall. Nick Smith Jr. always felt like the second domino to fall, and that officially happened today.
Yeah, this is obviously not a surprise to us. It's not a surprise to anyone who's been listening this offseason as we've been trying to sort of map out how the Hornets were going to end up cutting this roster down. Nick Smith Jr. came in with, obviously that first year in Arkansas was marred by injury. And so a lot of people were leaning on the high school tape, and he was a highly touted prospect going into his one and only year at college. So people were leaning on that, saying there's a lot of potential, there's a lot of promise, but you have to be patient and you have to give him an opportunity. And I think in fairness to the Charlotte Hornets, I think they did give him those opportunities, both in Greensboro, but also with the big club. I think all you can ask for as a young developing prospect is to get some run, have a few injuries give you an opportunity, and he had that. But unfortunately, what he didn't have was consistency as an offensive player. But I have a lot of respect for Nick Smith Jr. because he did fight back from that injury and did improve his game, I think, particularly defensively, committed last season to what Charles Lee wanted to do defensively with this team. It's just that offense was never able to justify, I think, a lot of the just natural physical negatives and skill negatives that came with him on the defensive end of the floor. And then earlier in his career with the Charlotte Hornets, I think he was moving a little fast. The game was moving a little fast for him. It started to slow down, but I just think he ran out of time in Charlotte as they started to shift. They've started now to shift towards more veterans, more players that can actually help them win now and out of the development focus that they've been in for a few seasons now.
As far as getting the opportunity, absolutely did. I just mentioned it. Appeared in 111 games. Started 27 last year. Yeah, a lot of your opportunity came because of injury, but you were awarded more of an opportunity than a lot of second-round picks, and he wasn't a second-rounder, to be clear. He was a 27th overall pick. So I shouldn't say you get more than a lot of seconds, but maybe you even got more than what your play dictated, especially your rookie season, because there just wasn't a lot of talent on the roster, and the talent that was here, they're banged up constantly, and they hit IR all the time. So there you go. You got a lot of opportunity. And I think this coaching staff did like Nick Smith Jr. enough to keep giving him a go at it. And he was not drafted by this regime. He was drafted by the old one. And I do feel like Charles Lee came aboard and said, there's something here. I want to explore it. In Summer League, we're going to throw everything at you. You're going to guard the opposing team's best player in Summer League. We're going to challenge you to facilitate more, play make for others, while also finishing better at the rim. And he worked at it. That's the unfortunate part of all of this. And we've mentioned this before. Feel like we should say it again. James Bouknight got plenty of opportunity here. Did not go as even swimmingly as the Nick Smith Jr. experience did.
And didn't handle it well.
Did not handle it at all. Tried to fight the coach.
Tried to handle the coach by the neck.
I mean, the James Bouknight stuff is truly wild. That draft in 2021, some truly wild stuff. But Bouknight got the opportunity, didn't do the most with it, and obviously also handled it poorly. Nick Smith Jr., everything that you would hear, everything you saw, everything you heard from him specifically, all was glowing, all was, hey, man, I care about this. I want to work at it. I appreciate the coaches throwing all of this at me. I want to get better. I've interviewed him, I think twice, maybe 3 times. Always a delight, like talking with him. Really cool dude, and like funny too. Like I liked his personality. This was going to happen. I tweeted it out. It was unfortunate yet inevitable at the same time. The Hornets shifted towards all the best players that we can go after are all guards. We want to get faster. We are going to lean all the way into offense with the lack of front court depth and the lack of centers that we have. So Nick Smith Jr. is a victim of all of that. Deserves a spot in the NBA, but he'll get one.
Yeah, he has a great attitude. I mean, that will take you, and he does have like just a good rhythm on his shot, a good shot form, and so he gets in the right situation and gets hot. Then yeah, I mean he's a fringe NBA player in between the G League and the back end of an NBA roster. So that's going to take you a long way. I just think if one of those skills would have come along, been more consistent, been able to be counted on. You talk about the playmaking. I mean, there were just simple passes, particularly in transition, that you take for granted because you see them 1,000 times as you watch an NBA season pass by. There were just passes that he couldn't make. And it was disappointing because the Hornets, I think, wanted to run. And we've talked about it a lot. Why couldn't they run? Why weren't they a faster paced team, even though year after year they've been saying we want to get faster? And it was because there were several players on the roster, ball gets in their hands in transition, and bad things happened. Turnovers happened. They were ineffective in transition. That wasn't all Nick Smith Jr.'s fault, but he was one piece of that. The final thing that I'll say is that he may also have been a victim of what all of these teams are starting to learn about the collective bargaining agreement, which is that if you want your books to be healthy in this second apron territory, particularly if you're trying to compete, the thing you have to do is draft a lot, and really hit on some of those players and sign them to longer term deals on small money. So like if you look at Sion James and Ryan Kalkbrenner, both drafted in the second round, both signed, and in the upper part of the second round where players do usually get guaranteed money, both those guys signed 4-year deals with club options in the 4th year at around 2.2, accelerated up to like 2.7, 2.9 in the final year with the club option. But that gives, particularly if one of Sion James, Ryan Kalkbrenner, or even Lee McNeely, if one of those players hits, it just gives you so much flexibility, both in trade conversations, but also in being able to invest more in the top of your roster and not get yourself into trouble. So you add 4 players, you add 4 rookies, that's going to tighten up the rest of the roster, and he was a victim of that.